This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by Monster Products, the headphones that are on my head right now, the Monster Elements. Available right now in a variety of colors in both on-ear and over-ear styles. There's the ROCs that are available in-ear. There's sports headphones and Bluetooth speakers from the little tiny Hotshot to the big Monster Blaster, all available. And then, of course, the cables to hook them and the rest of your home entertainment system up are all available by going to plughitslive.com/monster. And that music means that it is time for the Piltch Point with online editorial director of Laptop Magazine and Tom's Guide, Avram Piltch. Avram, we have got some stuff to talk about.
Yes. So this is a big time for Microsoft.
Yes.
This has been a big time for Microsoft because a few weeks ago the company announced not only a new laptop is coming, the Surface laptop, but that
which is different from the Surface Book.
Which is different than the Surface Book and the Surface Pro because it is not a two-in-one. It is exclusively a laptop. It is very lightweight, very attractive looking laptop, and it has Alcantara thread on the palm rest, which is, you don't normally get a material surface on a notebook.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't even know what that means. The most exciting thing the thing that I got most excited about was that beautiful blue color.
Yeah, the blue color is nice. It's very unfortunate that you can't get it in the base model. I think you have to spend at least $1,300 to get it with the blue.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because the models are sold out or what the situation is, but you also can't get it in a Core i7.
I think it may only be a certain config. I know we did a story on this. I think it may only be, it's certainly not in the base, and it may only be a certain config. Which is very...
Last night, when I was finally looking, because they announced this while I was on air at Collision, I just haven't had a chance to go wandering around yet. There was only one. It was an i5 with 8 gig and 256.
So the other thing about the Surface laptop, and a lot of people are very excited about the Surface laptop because it's lighter, it's cheaper, it's got this attractive look and these attractive colors, and plus it still has the awesome Surface screen. It seems almost a little bit like, if you think about it, like a Surface Pro where the keyboard and the screen are glued together and there's like a weight below the keyboard with some ports in it.
Okay.
I mean, conceptually speaking, sure. It doesn't look exactly like that, but
yeah.
Because it seems to have the same screen, and the screen on the Surface Pros and Surface Books is awesome. Like, no one can deny the color and the brightness. Really good.
Yeah.
High res, though not 4K. Was it like 3200 by 18 something?
Yeah, something like that.
But so it hasn't. We haven't got to review it yet, but we did get to. Not me. Did get to look at it. My boss and a couple of people did get to actually touch it, and they liked it from that. I think the interesting question though is about Windows 10 S.
Yes.
So part of what's happening now is with the Surface laptop, and a lot of people, including many of my colleagues, are thinking of the Surface laptop as, oh, is it for, do I want this? But really Microsoft's marketing it to students. That's who they're marketing it to.
Yes.
And this was announced as part of their education initiative. And so is Windows 10 S. I think the S is for school, but
I think you're right.
Or student
or something like that. Yeah.
So Windows 10 S is Windows 10, but you can only install Windows Store apps. And so that's kind of a controversial thing
Right.
because there's a lot of apps that you can't get as a Windows Store app. Windows Store apps have certain limitations, certain like we were talking on the previous segment about Google and how their APIs are more open. Well, the Win32 APIs are much more open than what you do for Google Store, for Windows Store. So
Though it's important to note that Win32 apps can be published through the Windows Store, and if they're published through the Windows Store, Windows 10s can install them.
So there was an interesting story that I read. You're talking about the Centennial app program.
Mm.
So my understanding is to become like a Win32 app in the store, you have to go through a conversion process or something called Windows Centennial. And there was a story which I got to send you because somebody I know was asking this, where they'd actually interviewed a whole bunch of smaller developers about why they hadn't used Centennial to get into the store. And they had a variety of reasons that sounded somewhat compelling, like their app wouldn't convert exactly, or they would actually, those who sold it would lose money, or, they'd have to support two versions, or it was somewhat at odds with the open source nature of the app.
I don't
So,
I don't know anything about Centennial, but I have talked to people who have just now it may have to be a Windows Forms or a WPF app. You may not have been able to build it outside of Microsoft's tech to be able to install to upload it direct, but I know people who have just existing apps that didn't have to go through any process to put it in.
yeah, I myself would like some more detail on this. I'll send you the story that I read.
Okay, and I'll do some research to get the full details on
we've
it.
actually talked about, like, should we do a story on it at Laptop and Tom's Guide, like why because Windows Store's been around a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like now with Windows 10s there might be a somewhat of additional incentive for, depending on the adoption of Windows 10s, somewhat of an incentive for the company, for companies to, software publishers to get into the Windows Store. But when you're talking about the Windows Store, you're going back more than 2 years, right? Because you're going back even to Windows 8 days when there was the store, right? So
Yeah, and Windows Phone 8 before that.
so Windows has had a store for a long time, and there's been an option to be in it for a long time, and yet even now, a lot of the really key apps you cannot get that way.
And there's a number of reasons why I find that bizarre, considering there's Project Sierra, maybe? That might have been the image recognition project. I don't remember. But I think it's Sierra, where you can take an Android APK and basically upload it direct to the Windows Store for zero cost. So there's a number of reasons why I feel that's kind of bizarre. I think the Windows Facebook Messenger that's in the Windows Store for Win 10, I think is a port of their iOS app.
Yeah, it's amazing that, like, for example, some of the major applications that, by the way, students would use at this moment are not in the Windows 10 Windows Store.
Snapchat.
So if you're now, I don't know, they didn't say that they were necessarily targeting older students, but I think they did sort of imply that college students might use this. There are many college design students who use Adobe Creative Cloud. Mm-hmm. There's no Adobe Creative Cloud. There's Photoshop Elements in the Windows Store. Just a ton of applications that people rely on, including especially development applications. Even at this moment, all the Visual Studios, all of Microsoft's own programming software is not in the Windows Store. So, although they're supposed to bring it, but It's definitely a huge limitation.
Yeah.
Fortunately, for those who buy a notebook that has Windows 10s on it, they will be able to, at least I think for the first year, get a free. This is what Microsoft was saying, they'd be able to get a free upgrade to Windows 10 Pro.
Yeah, I heard that.
And I think that's a reaction to this issue. But obviously Microsoft is hoping, they want Windows 10s to catch on. And all I can say is the only real reason, there's no real reason I think that a school, well, a school, I could see the point of a school saying, you know what, we don't want these kids to infect their computers that we're giving them if the school was distributing it.
Yeah.
So the Windows Store is safe. But they don't need a special version of Windows to do that, because there's administrative controls and permissions to prevent that.
Right.
So,
but
on regular Windows.
So what Microsoft is responding to with this, though, is the perceived lack of this problem on Chrome OS.
Yeah, but so the thing is, but this is exactly why why a lot of people don't like Chrome OS is because you can't install anything. It's not Windows. Mm-hmm. But and FYI, the other thing that people should know about Windows 10s is you'll never be able to really use another browser other than Edge. I'm saying really, I'll put this in quotes. Edge has to be the default browser, and you can only install another browser from the Windows Store. Right now, you cannot get Firefox and you cannot get Chrome from the Windows Store. But even if Google decided to try and make Chrome available through the Windows Store, apparently it would not be the same Chrome. It would have to use the rendering engine from Edge. It would basically be a wrapper around Edge.
Bizarre. Just
like on iOS, Chrome is basically a wrapper around Safari. Like Apple does it. Apple, you could make a browser for iPhone to compete with Safari, but it's still actually really using the rendering engine of Safari. So it's I can see a lot of people not being happy with that. It's Windows 10s. To me, it sounds like it's something that Microsoft is doing to try and kind of boost their ecosystem, and the benefit for the school might be, I can't see a benefit for an individual. The benefit for the school, since schools may not really care about students being able to install a lot of software if the software they want is in the store,
right?
Is that hopefully it's having some impact on the pricing, although the cost that we saw for some of these education notebooks was not cheap at all. So I'm not really sure. Like the Surface laptop, which is coming with this, is $999 to start. So it's not like you're getting a break on the cost of the Windows license. But to
be fair, a piece of hardware from the operating system vendor, you're not really going to get it's not like Microsoft's getting a deal on the licensing fee for Windows from themselves. So
I know, but I was looking at I think HP announced a laptop that has Windows 10s, and it was like no cheaper than one without.
Interesting.
Than a similar one without. So it's not like, but I think the other thing is that if it's a school, aren't they getting Office 365 and Teams?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's a huge benefit,
right,
if they're getting that.
Exactly.
Because that could be very costly.
Right.
So
it'll be interesting to see how this does. It'll be interesting to see how the Surface laptop does, because we've talked about it before that there's obviously still a huge market for non-convertibles. So, and then at Build, like right after this, they announced the availability for 2 developer kits for their Windows holographic headsets. So they're available for pre-order right now on the Microsoft Store, which is pretty cool. One from the original blue one, the Acer one, right? That you've got a picture of yourself wearing, and then I think one from HP.
Yeah. So
which is only like $30 more.
I'll close with this. I haven't tried the HP one. Supposedly, there's what I've heard from some of the vendors is that there's not a lot of difference between the different headsets. That they, are pretty similar on the inside. But I will say this: I tried the Acer one, and I loved the software that Microsoft had, but things were really quite blurry.
Yeah,
image was not sharp.
It's a device designed for developers. It's
but they make it sound like they're going to come out with it in December and just like sell it to consumers with pretty much the same thing, but with the controller.
Boy, I hope not.
And it's definitely there's a lot of I don't know if the blurriness is the device or the software or it's just trying to save on processing because things that you would stare directly at an object and it would get sharp, but everything in your peripheral vision and when you first stare at something, it would be blurry and then sharpen.
Got it. Well,
so
I've got one of the HPs on its way. So
yeah, let me know how that goes because but it's good that they're getting into that price range.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be like $400 for a kit over the holiday, which makes it cheaper than Oculus and much cheaper than HTC Vive. So anyhow, lots to see.
I would say, where can people find all your content about all this stuff?
So people can read my opinion of Windows 10s and more at laptopmag.com and tomsguide.com for the things that aren't laptop and Windows related. And I want to especially tell everyone that starting on the 31st or so is going to be our coverage of Computex in Taipei. And that's going to have a lot of exciting new products.
I always look forward to Computex from you. It's always fun, and
I look forward to the year when you get to go.
Yeah, right. I definitely want that to happen.
Because it is a very cool show to go to, and it's cool to go to Taiwan. So
yeah, for sure. We've just got to convince somebody that it's worth sending us. Anyway, good to talk about some Microsoft stuff with you. Obviously, you will not be with us next week because you will be at Computex, but we will still have an F5 show, and then when you get back, we will get to do one of my favorites, the Computex recap, because you always stumble across some bizarre and wonderful things.
Yes.
So we will not see you next week, but we will see you back in 2.